Hello, everyone. This is Keira, and we're back with another episode of Every Widow Thing. I'm here with Whitney, Lacey, and Holly. And today on this episode, we're going to be talking about just crazy and inappropriate encounters or things that people said to us in the wake of our tragedies and losing our husband. So does anybody have...
Well, I first want to just say the reason that we were always going to talk about this, but yesterday Keira said something that was so true, but also cracked me up about this topic. And she was like, people are just gross. People are gross. And I just love that. I'm like,
the name of this episode?
This
People Are
episode is
Gross?
called People Are Gross.
It should be.
I can change the words to People Are Strange.
I go what to
do a
expect
whole
when you're not
parody.
expecting it because remember that book? What to
Yeah,
expect
yeah.
when you're expecting it when you're not expecting it because every crazy thing you could imagine happens out of a situation like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even people that are trying to do something kind. Like when I first wrote on Facebook, which it felt so weird to do it, but that is one of the ways you communicate with people. And I was very I had a big presence on social media at that time. I was constantly on there, and
Shocking.
like posting things, and it's way calmed down since Hunter died. But that's also why I have so many great pictures of him with the kids and stuff, because I was always like trying to come up with something funny to post. But so I felt the need to post something on Facebook about Hunter dying because it was going to come out of the blue. And so you do your post and everyone's shocked and they're, making a comment. And several people wrote RIP. And that means rest in peace.
Yes.
And it sounds so nice, but
It's cliche. I don't
RIP.
like cliche.
RIP. And I was like, I got so upset about that.
I don't like that.
And they thought they were doing something nice, but I'm like, RIP is something that you put on a joke, Halloween tombstone or something. Or RIP is for
With
somebody.
the X's over the
You
eyes.
kill a fly in the kitchen, and the kids are like, "Rip fly."
Yeah, it just didn't feel like an emotional or a thoughtful thing. It felt flippant. You didn't even write
I
it
think
out.
that's the
You didn't even
perfect
write
word.
rest in peace. You wrote RIP. And I wanted to rip your fucking head off.
Well, speaking of Facebook,
Rip you a new one.
I wanted to rip you a new one. That's what I should have said. Dang it.
that could be
I
the
go to the
title of
cussing.
it.
Rip you a new one.
Tagging on in the Facebook thing, something that happened to me is my Toby's brother's now ex-wife.
Oh, man.
Toby's brothers. Okay.
Toby's brother's now ex-wife decided that it would be a great idea to post about the accident the day after it happened. And
Oh my God.
tag Toby and my
What did Toby
Love
say?
to be the drama
What-
spiller. They love to be the
who does that?
the one that gets
what-
to
and-
tell
and- and
the
what's
drama.
Yeah.
horrible about it is one of my best friends, actually Joan's husband, was traveling and he found out Toby died
Through
from Facebook.
Oh, man.
I was so pissed off. It was so inappropriate.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
just beyond.
that's pretty
inappropriate.
gross. I'm
It
just
is
gonna
gross.
say
That's
gross. That's gross.
We can like coin that term, okay? Like Paris Hilton did That's Hot. We can be like,
That's
gross.
Yeah.
That's right.
It could work.
Yeah.
I was out early on, probably the first outing. It was a baseball game for my son, and I was still in and out of physical therapy and stuff. But I was out with my parents watching the game, and a mom sidled up and
Boy.
said, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. I'm so happy to see you, and Thomas, and our boys were playing baseball." And she said, "Man, you look really good. I mean, I heard you burned up in that car."
That did not happen.
Oh, I hope she
That did
immediately
not
was mortified.
happen.
Did she recognize?
That is gross.
Did she recognize how gross that was?
I think she was trying something that something I've gotten really good at, y'all, which maybe you can relate, is trying to give people grace when these moments happen. And you think,
There's no grace for
I'm
that.
sorry.
Wow,
Sorry, there's no
okay.
grace for that.
Horrible.
That's
I have
ridiculous.
said some.
Be careful.
I think she was trying to say, hey, you look pretty good, all things considered.
Right.
But it came out like that. And that was pretty, it was
What'd
like
you
literally
say?
my first time out in public. Because I couldn't drive and I couldn't get around. I was in a wheelchair for a long time. And
Did you say burning down the house?
I just was
mean,
like-
what in the world?
I used to be a person, and I still am sometimes, a person that would try to smooth it over for the other
Right,
person. I would try to sort of alleviate their discomfort. That still is probably my default setting, but I'm getting better at not just going into the like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. And, today if somebody said that to me, I would say, wow, that's super rude.
You mean gross?
Right. But I didn't in the time. I was just, you're stunned. How can you not be stunned?
Right.
I haven't even left the house in months.
Right.
I was in a hospital for weeks on end, and I am out
see
at a
this
baseball
person?
game. I saw her yesterday.
Did she look
She
gross?
said something gross yesterday.
I did. You know what? I saw her at a funeral yesterday, and I just avoided because you
probably
realize
the
those
best
people
way.
that you have encounters with. There was another one there that Lacey, that I will remain nameless, but
Silent.
we hugged at the funeral for this other friend who sadly and tragically passed, and she brought up my stuff. So I'm at the church where Frank's service was that I didn't attend. It's been 9 years, and she started bringing up everything that happened, right after this other dear friend's service. We're focused on her. We're focused on her family. And this person was like, I remember I was there when your stuff. And, again, in those moments, you just say,
People are gross.
well, or this is coming from a place where, I don't know, they're trying to maybe help you remember that people were there for you in your moment. But I had to just sort of smile and say, I'm going to go inside. And
I hate to say this, but I think a lot of people that show up at those things are looky-loos. It's like a bad accident. There were people at Oliver's funeral that, honest to God, I don't know who they are. They were
in the pumpkin patch.
in the pumpkin patch, literally behind the
they
pumpkin,
left the
peeking
service
in.
with a pumpkin.
Yes, they got their half-price pumpkin because they went to the funeral. But it really, seriously, there's one that sticks out in my mind, and I'm thinking, she doesn't acknowledge my presence. I see her with people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't even acknowledge my presence when she sees me, and I'm thinking, you were at my husband's funeral, bitch. Like, what the hell were you there for?
Yeah.
If you don't even acknowledge you know me. That's weird. It's because she's a looky-loo. She wanted to be where all of the
showing the community, look at me, I'm here, I'm doing the right thing.
But I mean, it's so they want to see your tragedy, see you, and what's that gonna look like?
Or in a weird way, it's like an event in the neighborhood. It's like I hate to say a social event, but it's like, oh, were you at so-and-so's funeral? Oh, did you see
Yes.
so-and-so's funeral?
It's why I didn't go to the one yesterday. I know her peripherally. Hello, that's about it. She friended me on Facebook, didn't know her, but I was like, I can't even show up in good because I know how I felt. People that I didn't even know were there. It was like,
You know
you're
what? Now I
wanting
feel
to-
like a gross person.
Why?
Because I had been introduced to this woman after, so Hunter was dead, obviously, and we had a mutual friend. There was a man that I had met through this friend, and we had hung out or whatever a couple of times, and he's married. Well, he died unexpectedly. And so the mutual friend connected me with the newly widowed woman through text and just said, she's having a really hard time. She's open to talking to you. And so I reached out a couple of times, and we had a little text exchange, but we never met up. But she had a memorial for the husband a couple of months later. And she invited me, but I'd never met her. And
That's very different.
but she had invited
That's
me,
very
but she
different.
didn't know me. So I go. I haven't
But
finished.
someone connected you
But
together.
I-
This is someone that didn't
Right,
know
but
me
I
nor
did
him.
not. I did not immediately, because you know, with those things, everybody is wanting to talk to you and get your attention and stuff. And so I had not gone up to her. In hindsight, I should have, the very first thing, gone up to her, because what ended up happening is that I'm standing in line to get a drink because it was an open bar and they were having like a music. He was in a band, so they were going to have all these bands playing stuff. So I did not go up to her. She sees this woman that she doesn't know standing in line to get a free drink at her husband's memorial.
You're so gross.
I am so gross. And I was embarrassed. And she was like, "Hi." I can't remember what she said. She was very gracious, but she was like, "Hi."
Yeah. Who
who
are you?
Yeah, she was like, "I'm so and so." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then it kind of hit me that, "Oh, I am gross."
Well,
But then I forgot until just now when we're talking
it's
about
human
gross
nature to be curious. It's human nature to want to, know like, wow, I heard you caught on fire and you look okay. It's kind of, we all have those moments
I would say that.
where we want to see the
people. I
accident
heard you got
or
burned up in that car.
But yeah, you've got to have some restraint. And I, honestly, one of the silver linings for me going through all this is like, I really do try to think before I speak more than I probably did prior, because I have to think like, well, are these words coming out of my mouth appropriate, off the cuff, flippant? Just be mindful and be careful, with, even if you're thinking it, doesn't mean it needs to come out of your mouth.
Well, and you have to take into consideration the person. I can remember a very good friend of mine and Hunter's in California. I had told y'all that right after he died, we had already had a trip planned to California. So me and the kids still went. And I was kind of hiding away. I didn't really want to see a bunch of people. But so she texted me and she said, "Hunter came to me in a dream." And he had just died a week prior. "Hunter came to me in a dream and he wanted me to tell you that he's okay." And you know me, I love signs. I love the dreams. I was furious. I'm getting furious right now. Furious. And I'm driving in the car with my friend, and we were supposed to go up to another friend's house, and we pull over, and I don't get out of the car, and I just started screaming. And I was so mad. And this was a friend of mine. And I'm a spiritual person, and she's a spiritual person. And I had to collect myself. And then I just sent a little text like, "This isn't what I need to hear right now. I know he's okay. And now I'm wondering why he didn't come to me.
Right.
Why is he coming to you?" So even when you're trying to be thoughtful, you're not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
I feel really bad. I didn't scream at her. Poor Sharon had to hear me screaming in the car and beating. I was so livid. And that's something that people would think I would love to know.
That's why it's so hard. The only thing I had a funny story. This, when we said this was going to be the topic,
Yeah.
I went back through some notes and thought this has nothing to do with anybody I know. But my best friend Kathy Steen was at my house. She decided to stay with me after the second funeral in Germany, and she was standing at the doorway. And I was calling this company called Rhapsody Blues. I was looking at Oliver's, I stayed in business mode for a long time. That's how I cope. I have to go in my head. As y'all know, I kind of go into a hole when things are really not good. Instead of going out, I go in. And so I was doing all the paperwork and just staying really busy. And I was going through his bank account and all the drafts. I was getting rid of all of them. One of them was Rhapsody Blues. So you go in there and you click on the number, and I call them up and I said, yes, this is Lacey Schmelzel, my husband Oliver. He died, and I had the death certificates and everything. I'd like to, I'm about to get rid of his checking account, and so the draft is no longer going to go through. I don't want you to wonder why it's not. So you start trying to send the bill and also service charges, I'm sure, because it'll bounce back. And they said, so how can we retain his business? So I was like, excuse me? And they were like, how can we retain his business? And Kathy's standing there watching me. I'm unaware. She's like standing right there. I said, well, unless you're going to pipe that music 6 feet under, he ain't going to be listening to Rhapsody Blues. He may be singing the blues, but he's not going to be listening to Rhapsody Blues.
Oh my gosh.
You were singing the blues.
Kathy was like, I am so worried about you right now. Like, when I got off the phone, she was like, you were just like in full on, like, Rhapsody Blues, you're going to be singing the blues. I wasn't even sad. I wasn't even mad at them.
No, you were, that's one of those moments where the comedy comes in.
Yeah.
And you're like, even in your grief, you recognize, oh my God, that's hilarious.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right, you're an idiot.
And then
sure
they
there
go,
were
I said, can I
moments like
speak to your manager? I said, flash forward, a manager gets to the phone. I tell him, I said, I am so frustrated with your customer service rep. I'm trying to tell him. And I went through the whole story again. He did the same thing.
No, he didn't.
I was like,
well, because maybe, are they just reading from a script?
Yes.
thank you. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They're
They're
reading.
not even
They're
listening.
like, yes, Miss. They go, then they go, they realize they can't say my last name. So they go, thank you, Miss Lacey. We're trying to retain your business. What can we do? It's $9.95. But after the second
That's
one, I
when you just
thought,
want to be like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
the same thing happened with AT&T though. I ended up getting a free phone out of it because I got mad about because they were like trying to charge me. My husband's phone, I guess he'd gotten an upgrade or something, and they were charging the account. It hadn't shown up yet. And I was doing the draft. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? My husband just died. You're worried about collecting your extra $10 or whatever. It wasn't much. So they ended up sending me a free phone. Because I was just like, you guys are gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
You guys are gross. My husband died and you're pissed off about getting your $10 that was coming off of a draft. I said, I'll send you 20 just to shut up. I mean, just do your work on your end. I'm about to get rid of you anyway. So I'm giving you a heads up and being nice about it. Yeah. I could just get rid of you and you get nothing.
Right.
So you're either going to get paid, but it's amazing to me.
Customer
and I realize
service people that you go through, I'm sure all of us had those experiences. And you guys know my Costco story, which was actually kind of recent. I think it was last Christmas, and I'm in Costco. And the guy says at the checkout, I spent a shit ton of money at Costco. And I've got 3 teenagers, it's holidays. And he's like, oh, you're going to get a ton of cash back because I've got some kind of executive Costco membership or something. And I'm like, what?
Ooh, fancy.
And he's like, yeah, you get cash back when you spend this kind of money. Go over there to customer service and, get your money. And I'm like, all right, money, yay, free money. I go to customer service and I'm like, hey, Jerry over there sent me over here. It says that y'all owe me some money. So bring it on. The woman says, okay, give me your card. And she looks it up and she's like, now who's the account under? And I'm like, Keira Lyman. And she's like, well, is there anybody else on the account? And I'm like, maybe Frank's on there. And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, I didn't realize that we were a part of this program, but apparently I'm supposed to get some cash back. And she said, well, he's the primary on the account. Okay, it's been 8 years. I said he's been dead for 8 years. And she says, well, I'm going to need a death certificate.
Did you
and
just
I didn't
Google
have
it and
my
show it to
Xerox
her?
on me because it had been 8 fucking years.
Xerox didn't exist
I
anymore.
was no longer carrying the Xerox of the
Right.
death certificate in my wallet.
You could Google it and show her the obit.
I just
That's
could
what I had
not
to do.
believe. And I said, well, this is pretty interesting. I didn't lose my cool, but I said, wow, I just don't see how, this is Costco. This isn't.
They don't mind taking your money for the groceries.
And so
when did that
she
ever come
said,
up
come
that
back
way?
with the death certificate and we'll get it figured out. So I think I called one of you guys
I
right
came over
after
to your house.
I was so
you
pissed.
texted the group, I think, and was just like,
I'm
crying.
like, you're
in
not going to
Costco."
believe this.
Yeah.
So, of course, months go by. I'm forgetting. Finally, and the other piece that she said, I said, well, why is this policy in place? This seems kind of silly because, I'm on there. It's not just him.
And they're taking your money for groceries.
Right. My picture's on
All
the
the
thing.
time.
She said, well, when there's a divorce, I said, okay, so this is about divorced people fighting over their paper towel money. Like, is that what this is?
Yep.
When there's a divorce, they'll try to, one or the other, they'll both try to get the benefits or whatever. So I mean, 6 months probably go by. And every time, of course, I'm at Costco between then and then, I'm like, damn it, I forgot the death certificate. So I bring it, and I mean, I'm all like, look, and I'm like unfolding it and sliding it under the shield.
He's
like,
dead, y'all.
I brought the death certificate, and this poor girl that I get
Some
this
ashes
time,
too, by the way.
yeah, here's a little sprinkling of him. She's like, she just looks at me and she's like, what is this? I said, this is required documentation. I was told needed to be hand delivered so that I can get my cash back.
How much did you get?
Costco.
$1.50.
This poor girl, her face just blanches. She was mortified. She gets her manager over. The manager's more mortified. Of course, I didn't remember who I had dealt with before because it was the holidays. Again, let's just say
But
hashtag.
that wasn't even necessary.
So they were mortified. They, scurry over. They're pulling up the account. They're digging through. I walked out of there with like almost $900.
What?
Wow.
That
money
was worth it.
from all the years prior because I guess maybe they were probably sending the checks and I was just going, oh, this is for Frank. Well, he's not going to do anything with this, and just threw it in the trash.
Oh my gosh.
That is awesome.
I know it was pretty awesome, but
Well,
You had
Costco
to go
came
through
through.
that. At
I
least you
didn't
got
know about
$900.
that.
yeah, so thank you, Costco, for making it right.
Yeah,
but,
now they can sponsor our.
But train your staff.
podcast.
I mean, this one
AT&T
staff woman
can
who
do
was
that.
being gross, and then this other staff woman who was being just lovely. So,
I guess
That's
that gives us
good.
also a message too, and me included. We don't know what people are going through. So maybe, like Ryder always says, maybe they're having a bad day, moms. I'm trying to be that. I think as you get older and enough bad things have happened to you, we can tend to go to the dark side. It's a little easier too when you've lived enough life and you've had enough terrible things but I think maybe just go, maybe we don't know maybe that customer service rep was just following the protocol.
Oh, I was completely nice, and I left, and I didn't
and-
make a scene. I'm not really a scene maker. I thought it was really hysterical. But it's like, with
Not
even the
unless
stuff you
you're
were
at
dealing
Midnight
with.
Cat or Don's Depot.
Are you like, who's making up?
Or
Who's making
at
up
bar
the
with
dead
Dave
husband,
Matthews.
though? Like, oh my goodness.
or in Vegas.
Now we're in trouble. You guys need to shut it down.
Anyway,
But who's making it up? Didn't you guys ever feel like, why would I make this up?
Yeah.
Why would I make up the dead husband?
right.
Well, that happened on the phone all the time with
when
I
you're
don't
trying
know,
to close things down.
Yes,
or get-
and they're like, "Well,
things
you're
taken off.
it's not. Toby's real first name was Brian.
What?
It's Brian.
He has a
Sudduth.
first name
Yeah.
that's different than the name.
Brian Tobias.
That must have added a layer of
Would
confusion.
you date a Tobias? Okay,
Probably
we
not.
digress.
Anyway, but
She
it's
would
like
now.
it's Brian Sudduth on the account, and I'm like, well, he's dead, and they're like, well, we can only speak to him, and I'm like, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
But I had to show the death certificate,
Right.
It's just like a pain in the butt.
It is a big.
It
pain
makes
in the
sense if it's banking or something, the mortgage,
These were like more
People are
smaller
gross.
things, like.
Costco, or the phone bill,
But
the
they-
$10 on the phone bill. It's gross.
Yeah.
But it's
Come
just like you
on,
said.
It's gross.
People
the
are
Spotify
gross.
account.
There are people out there that are lying and saying that they have a dead husband so that
Yeah.
they don't have to pay their cell phone bill.
Let's get them on the show.
yeah,
I'm curious.
no, they're gross. They're not invited.
You know who I
Let's
I
have
mean,
a sit down.
Yeah, I want to talk to Elizabeth. Who's the girl with the whole? Oh my God, I can't even remember her last
I
name.
know
She just
who
went
you're
to
talking about.
prison. Blood, the
Oh,
blood.
Holmes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I've been following all of that. I'm obsessed. Like that woman. I mean, she can get whatever she wants. That girl can talk anybody into anything. I mean,
I went
billionaires
as for Halloween once.
That's the woman that
I did
started
the crazy
talking like
blonde hair,
Yeah,
the
she-
bun,
and she
and
looked
the
like
lipstick and the
Steve
black
Jobs with
turtleneck.
the-
I was
yeah.
like, this is the easiest outfit ever.
But I would-
actually, when I was first dating Brendan, he was like, what are you doing for Halloween? And I'm like, I'm Elizabeth Holmes.
No, you said.
I mean,
I'm Elizabeth Holmes.
I
But
did.
think about her. That woman has been able to talk some of the smartest, wealthiest men in the world and women in the world to giving money to a project that was
That's because
not even
she makes them
legit.
feel
It
stupid.
was like the Wizard of Oz.
She talks
Like
about
the
things that
little
they don't understand, so
hamster
they start agreeing, and then she comes across very confident. Anyway, she's gross.
Yeah, she's great.
I have a
still
story.
want her tips, though.
My poor mother, she's going to hate that I'm telling this story, but I think it is hilarious. And Mom, I know you're not gross. But the week after Hunter died, I got pictures back. You know, we had taken pictures a couple of weeks prior. And
I'm so jealous of that.
I know. I'm in the hospital when my friend who took the pictures is starting to send me, you know, some of the proofs and go, look how great.
Was
and
that the sofa
didn't know.
one? The sofa one that's on Instagram? Is that the one you're talking about?
Which one on Instagram?
Where you guys are on the sofa?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that
have
one's
one of the
cute.
Yeah, where we're on the sofa and I didn't put it out. We didn't have
that
room.
was the last one.
Yes, that was our last one. And so we're looking through them, my mom and I, and she's in shock too. And she goes, wow, Hunter looks so good. And I said, I know. And she said, you look like you could be his mother. And I was like, I literally turned to her and I go, oh my gosh, I'm putting that on Facebook. And she goes, no, you can't. And I go, I'm going to. It's hilarious. And she goes, well, I'm sorry, Whitney. You're just not photogenic. You look better in person. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you're not stopping. She swears that it didn't happen.
You're doubling down, Mom.
Yeah, she doubled down.
Well, I guess it's better that you look better in person than in a photo.
Yeah, I'd rather like you be pleasantly surprised.
Haven't we all gotten that in our dating apps?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I remember exactly what that conversation when I did have to put photos of myself on the dating app, and I'm like, I'm not photogenic. I'm better in person.
And the man would say something like, oh my gosh, and you look like your picture, and you're really super cute. And I'm like, okay, what were you
Wish
expecting?
I could say the same.
Someone else?
Because apparently a lot of them aren't, though. I mean, I've been out with a few that didn't look like their photos. So I'm sure women do it too.
They use the same photos for 10 years.
And they're life coaches,
and they look different, and they're gay, but they are pretending to be straight.
Where did that come from?
We're talking about the life coach. Anyway.
The life coach.
Oh, the life coach.
I had one family member say something that was wildly inappropriate, but it speaks more about them than it does you. I had to kind of like remember that. Like, I think a lot of us like couldn't eat, so I lost an enormous amount of weight. I looked terrible. I only have a few pictures from that time, and I look terrible. I don't look good.
Too thin isn't
Yeah,
good.
well, it's just everything looked terrible. Like your hair starts drying out, and your face just
eyes.
I just look terrible. And so, but one of the family members I had to pick them up at the airport, and they were like, "You look so skinny."
Oh my god!
Like that was a good thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard that too.
Wow.
Well, that's a problem in our culture.
Wow,
for sure.
I was like,
they go, "How'd you lose so much weight?" I go, "It's called the dead husband diet."
Yeah,
you heard of it? And they're like,
"Oh,
I mean,
wow."
You heard of keto?
This
is a little more extreme.
Deado.
It's a little tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super easy. First, your husband dies,
your breadwinner,
and then so there's no bread to eat. Oh, we're going down a rabbit hole.
We are. Sorry.
Any other?
We can edit that out, can't we?
Of course, I can edit it all out.
That
we
was
can
gross.
Start over.
That was a little gross. I'm
No,
sorry.
No, all right. The joke about the breadwinner, that was funny.
I think it's funny.
Anything else? Let's end on a positive note. What are some things that people said or did that actually were comforting?
Things that were comforting. Two of Toby's best friends helped me clean out his office. We had to move out of his office, and we had fun with that. Like it was. I mean, that sounds weird. It
doesn't sound weird.
We found some funny things that he had saved. We're like, why did he keep that? Why did he keep a box of that?
And they also knew him and loved him too.
Yeah.
So it was. I'm sure that was nice.
And then they are the friends that had to call all of his clients. And then my friend Joan came and stayed with me for a week or two, and like took over all of his design jobs.
Oh, wow. And finished his jobs for him.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's called really stepping up.
Hunter's mom shared with me recently that one of the things that meant the most to her, a woman that she didn't know very well, contacted her and just said, I'm so sorry, and I would love to hear more about him. So would you like to come have coffee?
I love that.
And she went over and she got to share who Hunter was.
Oh.
And she said that meant so much to me because a lot of people stop saying their names, stop talking,
Yeah.
especially people that you're just meeting,
Yeah.
They don't even feel a connection
Right.
about it. So it meant so much to her. So that's definitely one way you can make people feel immediately better. Say their name, ask them to share a story or
I have another interesting, it was a message I got on Instagram from a friend of Toby's that I had never met. And she's an artist. And she had actually been in town the month before Toby died. And I unfortunately was too busy to go out to dinner with them, which I regret now. But anyway, she reached out to me, and it's funny because she messaged me on Instagram after she listened to the podcast, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think I overstepped, and I did, oh my gosh, was this wrong? I can't believe I sent you a piece of artwork and just forced you to be my friend." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," I was like, it made me feel so close to him. To get to know you, even though we still have not met in person yet. But she sent me this beautiful piece of art that she painted
oh, wow.
for Toby, or that made her think of Toby. And
Sweet.
Anyway, and it's hanging in my room where I see every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah. I have a lot of people took the time to write me a letter, which you never get anymore, and sharing who Hunter was to them.
Yeah.
And they were people that I didn't even know, people that he had worked with, or even
I love that.
He helped one of my sister's friends when she was starting a business kind of get going and was mentoring her a little bit. And she wrote this really long, sweet letter. And I treasure those. I've got them in a little box in my bedroom. And my hope or my plan is at some point I will make a book, for each kid because their memories get fuzzy.
Family did that. They solicited people to write something about him and made a book for the kids.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's nice.
People from before he and I met, people from high school, people from college.
I need to do that. I have.
And his parents, I'm very grateful. They spearheaded that effort and did that for me. Yeah. And for the kids.
We did that at, not me, my friends set up like cards at the memorial that people took with them. And I actually got a card in the mail maybe a year ago.
No way.
It's been 5 years that somebody.
That's awesome. And if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I should have done that, do it now.
Still do it.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Because it's just as special now as it would have been back then. Maybe even more special because you don't feel like people remember.
And be specific. My next door neighbor, Amanda, they had moved away, and she's a writer, so maybe that's why it came so easily to her. But they had moved off, and I think they came to the funeral, but I hadn't seen her in quite a while. And she wrote a letter, and she said, "I remember." And I used to keep her kids a lot because they were little, right around Ryder's age. When she was writing, she'd write all day. And then they would come over a lot. And I always kind of felt like sometimes I told her this, she thought I was kind of dim because I would be out there doing chalk draw with Ryder. I had a 20-year career before I had a kid, but I didn't work for 5 years at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so I would play with him and we would do chalk draws, trying to teach him how to do letters by doing ... and then trace the letter.
Yeah.
And he was obsessed with numbers. And he did them with his little lisp in German. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all the little kids would be out there with me. And we did it every day.
Yeah.
And she wrote me the sweetest, most detailed about all the ways that she said, I saw all over the way he looked at you and I saw the way that he spoke to you when you were out with the kids playing and I thought, wow, all that time, I had made a dialogue in my head that she thought I was some kind of dim, whatever, that I'm just playing with the kids in the yard.
Yeah.
And it was not at all that. She wrote this sweet letter. So if you're, if you're a listener and you have someone that's had something tragic, be specific like she did. I've kept all of them, but that one's my favorite.
Well, because I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you had these thoughts. After Hunter died, I felt like a lot of my memories died because the only two people that had some of those memories
Yeah.
were him and I.
Yeah.
And we knew how we were as a couple. We knew what we did for each other.
Inside jokes,
Yeah.
and all of that. I would make the inside jokes, and then I'd be like, "Oh, he's
There's
not
nobody
here.
here.
He doesn't get
Or the birth of your babies.
Nobody would get the reference.
Who was there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the birth of the babies, the inside jokes that nobody gets. I used to be at the grocery store and putting his favorites in the cart, like things for him, and then I'd get to the next aisle and be like, "Oh, I guess. Oh, okay." No one's going to eat that because that's like, the special thing that he likes. And I mean, it's just bizarre how the brain.
So
how the
if
brain
you
works.
have a memory, especially, she gave you the gift of a memory of the two of you.
Yeah. I mean,
And
but I didn't
so-
even know she was paying attention to.
Right. So that is really special because nobody in my mind, nobody knows, especially here
Right.
because he was dead. Nobody knew him here.
I forgot to add, she even sent a picture, and it was about just a couple of months ago because she knew Ryder graduated and her son graduated the year prior. It was us at her house at Halloween, and it's because I guess she didn't have a lot of pictures of me and Oliver together. And her son, I think she used it for some of his like graduation, something or other, and happened to notice he was in and mailed it to me out of the blue.
That is so
Thank
love that.
you, Amanda Iyer Ward.
Because when you
Read
go
her
back
books,
through
by the
those
way.
photos and you see something, I've had people say to me, "Oh, we have pictures of,
Sweet.
Frank and Karis, same thing like, some holiday prior or some school event prior. I'm going to send them to you." And then maybe they forget or I forget or, so that's like the fact that she took that extra step is really
Yeah, and
meaningful.
she's a busy mom of 3. She works full time.
And she doesn't even probably have it hasn't had a grief story.
I don't know
yet,
if she has
or-
or hasn't.
or
I mean, I don't
was-
know. I've read all her books, but I
Yeah,
don't
you said
recall
read
there
her
being
books. What are her books?
Amanda
Let's give her
Iyer
a sh-
Ward, Sleep Toward Heaven is the first one. I'll remember that.
What?
Yeah.
Is this a novel?
She
fiction?
is.
Or-
She's a Random House writer, so she's very successful. In fact, she was on Reese Witherspoon's
wow.
her book club.
Oh,
Yeah, she was
wow.
one of her choices. So, and she was
Wow.
my neighbor for a super long time, and she's just cool. She's just the epitome of cool.
She's
but she had
emotionally
never.
intelligent.
But what's funny though, she's never appeared that way in person to me. Like I never picked up on that with her.
Right. You
We would
thought-
always
thought
talk
you were
about.
dumb.
We'd laugh, but I wasn't working. She was working full time, and I was taking care of all the little
You're
blondies.
making
Her kids
chalk
were
dots.
blonde, and
Maybe
they were.
that was some of your own like intimidation,
Of course.
like I know
Oh,
that I sometimes
absolutely.
my view of people are colored by like, oh, I'm feeling insecure around this really super successful person or
Well, it's like when I think you absolutely hit it like we were saying earlier. It's usually about your own processes because I had never not worked. It was weird.
right.
And I thought, I'm working my butt off. Like it was way harder for someone with my personality to stay home.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
Oliver
not
was like
easy.
worshiping me for doing it because
We
he's
have
the
to
one
do
who
the
wanted
whole,
me to
like,
do it.
Yeah.
being a mother is work. That is what
It's
it is.
the
a job.
hardest job I've ever. I mean, I wanted to go back to work so bad. I thought I could just sit at a desk. I could just have my coffee.
And you know what? When you're a widow, you don't have your husband around to go, "You're doing a good job. This is
That's
hard."
right.
You have in your mind, you only have people looking in and going, "When is she going to go to work? What is she
well,
doing?"
they
How
didn't
do
even look in. They're saying it.
To
When
your
are you going to
face.
work?
They're being gross.
They're being so
I had
gross.
just
That's
had a
beyond
conversation with
gross.
Frank right before the accident because our youngest was supposed to be going into kindergarten, and I was like, okay, I am ready to do something else because I had sort of followed, his career here, and I had given up things and had deferred and had kids, which was great. But I was ready. I'm like, I'm tired of yoga and Target. That was the conversation.
I just wore the
I'm
pants.
going to
I
get
didn't even
this
go to
kid
yoga.
in school and I'm going to get this kid in school and I'm going to do something else. And it never happened. It
Yeah.
just never happened.
It's hard to do it all well. I mean, some of us have to make choices. I
That
was
was
not
it
one
for
of
me
those.
after-
I'm like we said, I think like a dude. It was better that I focused on just Ryder. I think when I tried to work and do that, which I did when he was 6, it was very
I
hard
remember
for
you were
me.
feeling like maybe you were failing him in some way, or, we all grapple with that as mothers. And I felt like you were happier when you just decided, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to focus on him, and then I can always pick it up later.
Because it was easier for me. I'm not good at like doing 50 million things at one time. The brain gets overloaded, and
You're
I'm just
a
like,
monotasker.
yeah,
and
I
that's a
prefer it
gift.
that way.
Yeah.
If it's something big, I prefer it to be a monotasker. But
And
some
what
people,
a gift that you were able to take that time.
absolutely.
You know,
I
and
see
for
it now that way. At the time,
Right.
I was frustrated,
Right,
because
sure.
you lost the job and the husband at the same time. And I thought all those years I stayed home, it was my turn to get to go back to work, and he was going to help out at home. But now I see it as a gift, because I think the relationship, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. We're closer to our kids, I believe, because we were close, like meaning we stayed close.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of people out there that widows who don't have the option. They have to go to work. And so you
a
can
really
you
good
can
point
still
to
be
make.
close
Yeah.
to your kids. It's harder, I think. And that's the
think
gift
so,
that I
too.
see, is that I was able, because my husband was a huge budgeter and he had life insurance, which was huge. And then his company stepped in and did something amazing and paid me his salary.
That is beyond.
Huge,
Yeah,
incredible.
huge. And so I was
Dinner's on
given
Whitney.
amazing
Exactly.
dinner and drink.
On Hunter.
That was gross,
Or
Keira.
Wendell.
That was really gross.
And that brings up something to me, is
sitting
that,
on that one
we've
for
got to do an episode on financial stuff, like the things that, hey, if you're listening and your family's still intact, these are things women should know and have in
Yes.
place before
You know what?
tragedy strikes.
That's gonna
'Cause
be-
it just might.
That's going to be our next episode. We're going to do a whole
We have to.
financial
There's so much
and things to prepare.
about
Yeah,
that.
this is about before the grief hits.
And by the way,
Know
my
the
husband
fucking
was only
passwords.
38, so remember that they're not all old, and y'all's were young too. I mean,
Yeah.
these are not old men.
Nobody expects it when it happened to us, because we were all in those ages where life is very full and vibrant, and there's a lot of life left.
Yeah,
And then jokes
and
on us.
they were all healthy, so,
Right.
I mean, things happen.
Yeah.
So be
You're in the thick of
prepared,
it when the kids are.
because that's the last thing you
young.
want to do, is be ill prepared when that happens, because that's a lot to deal with on its own. Without so, if nothing else, have your friends listen to that episode, because maybe
Yeah.
they'll be more prepared.
Definitely. We are full of information for you guys, not only on the podcast, but on Instagram. We're getting a website set up, and we will just have so many resources for you. So continue to listen, follow us, comment, review, shoot us a DM, but don't be gross.
Bye.
It's gross out there, guys.